Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. From political revolution to political dodgeball. Bernie Sanders was on Meet the Press this morning, and with all the caveats that obviously I respect everything Bernie has done for the progressive movement, I am not declaring him a sellout or a fraud. I got to keep it real. This was very disappointing, particularly him dodging questions on Cornel West's third-party run. His somewhat, in my view, undemocratic answer on whether there should be a real Democratic primary, among other answers. Let's start with his straight up dodging on questions regarding Cornel West's third party run.
Let me ask you about Cornel West. He was a co-chair of your campaign in 2020. He's flirting with a Green Party bid for president. The numbers tell the story between 2016 and 2020. You can directly correlate the two third-party candidates, their collective total. That was the difference between Biden winning states and Clinton losing those key states. Are you trying to discourage Cornel West from running?
Well, I've known Cornel for many, many years. He's a very independent-minded guy. He will do what he wants to do. I just think, again, I think Cornel or anybody else can play an important role now about raising issues that are not always discussed. But at the end of the day, I think the progressive community in general and the American people have got to make a decision as to whether we stand for democracy or authoritarianism, or whether or not we're going to represent working class families.
You don't get dodgier than that, Bernie, with all due respect. First of all, Bernie's not a stupid politician, although he made a lot of stupid, naive mistakes in his 2016 and 2020 run for president. But he's fully aware that this whole narrative and propaganda that they push, Chuck Todd and the rest of the corporate media, that somehow Jill Stein, third-party run, was the difference and put Donald Trump over the edge in 2016. Bernie knows that's not true. So why didn't he correct Chuck Todd? I mean, there's already been reporting out there that even if Jill Stein did not run in 2016, Hillary Clinton would have lost to Donald Trump still, because she would have only tied in 2 out of the 3 critical Midwest states, which would have still handed Trump the election. So Bernie didn't correct Chuck Todd there. Secondly, Jill Stein's own voters were surveyed from 2016, and they said if she didn't run, they just wouldn't have voted. So Jill Stein did not take the election and take it from Hillary Clinton and hand it to Donald Trump. But when Bernie talks about, some vague kind of a talking point on, Cornel's been doing good things for many years, but right now we got to focus on whether we want democracy over authoritarianism. Well, Bernie Sanders, if you look back at his political career, started out fiercely advocating for third parties. In fact, he ran for office in Vermont, third party. He obviously has been an independent that caucuses, yes, with Democrats, but he has refused to officially sign up as a Democrat his whole career. So what he's saying sounds to me like he's saying right now, 2023, to save democracy, which we don't really have. As I always say, we live in the United Corporations of America, and the Electoral College by default, cancels democracy. If the popular vote winner does not become the winner, you can't say you have a democracy. When your government is purchased by the special interests of corporate America, you can't say you have a democracy. But how is it democracy over authoritarianism if you're basically advocating for no more choices than the two-party duopoly, which Bernie, through his dodge, said, well, right now, I respect Cornel West, but we got to focus on democracy. Well, you're advocating against democracy if you are pushing, no, we can't have more choices than Democrats or Republicans. So very disappointing that, frankly, he dodged. I have no intel that Bernie has reached out to Cornel West to try and push him out or get him to drop out. So in fairness, I don't think that's happening. I just don't think they've spoken about it. And Cornel is diplomatic when asked about Bernie. But, I mean, this is a clear dodge. And frankly, Bernie, in my view, when he's talking about we need to prioritize democracy, he's basically saying in the name of democracy, we shouldn't have another choice in Cornel West. Let's continue. Chuck Todd asked him about his former campaign manager, Fez Shakir, saying that he was worried that Cornel West was being taken advantage of. Let's take a look.
One of your chief political advisors is concerned that Cornel West is being taken advantage of by maybe people that simply want his name on the ballot. Do you have those concerns?
I really haven't followed it that closely.
Yeah, I haven't followed it very closely. I'm just a U.S. senator who ran for president the last 2 times out of the last 5 years and is longtime friends with Cornel West. But I'm not following it very closely. I don't know what my former campaign manager and still a senior aide, Fez Shakir, I don't know what he's saying. Listen, let's call it what it is. You know, Cornel West is not some dainty, innocent flower. He's a grown-ass man, a spiritual man, a charismatic man, an intelligent man, a scholar. He's not some innocent, bystander that could easily be taken care of. The man has agency. He knows what he's doing. Whether you agree with it or not is up to you. But who's taking advantage of him? He knows what the stakes are. He has said Donald Trump and Republicans are fascist. He has called Joe Biden milquetoast neoliberal. I believe in many ways Joe Biden and Democrats are fascist in different ways, corporate fascism. But this whole notion that, he's being taken advantage of is nonsense. And Bernie should have called it nonsense. He's a grown-ass, brilliant man. He's not being taken advantage of. And shame on Chuck Todd for propagating that bullshit. But it wasn't only the dodge on Cornel West and the third-party run that I found interesting. Chuck Todd asked Bernie whether he believed we should have a more robust Democratic primary. Bernie's answer, again, was not really indicative of somebody advocating for a vibrant, strong democracy.
Do you think there would be a robust discussion on this on the left if there were a competitive primary? Do you think there should be?
Well, I think in this particular time, this particular moment in American history, when we're taking on somebody, the former president, who in fact does not believe in democracy, he's an authoritarian and a very, very dangerous person. I think at this moment there has got to be a unification of progressive people in general all over this country, people who are prepared to make sure that women control their own body, that we deal with climate change, that we represent the needs of the working class of this country and take on the billionaire class.
So to be fair, I think Bernie is sincere. I think he was sincere in 2016 when he endorsed Hillary Clinton for fear of Donald Trump and fascism and what Donald Trump represents. I think he was sincere in 2020 when he endorsed Biden, trying to get rid of Donald Trump and Trump's fascistic tendencies and actions. But I think when he says at this particular moment, that's where he kind of loses me, because it's always this particular moment. It's always, this is the most important election of our lifetime. It's important. It's always, this election is different. It's always, you got to hold your nose because, the stakes are unique this time. Well, why is it going to be any different next time around when it's, Republican candidate DeSantis maybe, or Marjorie Taylor Greene, or fill in the blank of extremist, nativist, Christian fundamentalist Republican candidate? I don't think you could constantly every election say this time it's different. And that doesn't minimize. Yes, there is a fascist threat. I don't want to fool you. There is. There's white supremacist fascism. There's authoritarian fascism going on. There's corporate fascism, which I just outlaid. But I just disagree that we have to buy into it's this particular moment, this election in particular. Secondly, if Bernie, I agree with him, we need to focus on democracy over authoritarianism and defeating fascism. But history has shown you do not defeat fascism with, corporatism. And why would you have a better chance of defeating fascism, Trump, by canceling democracy, having no competition for the best candidate to go up against Trump, having no battle of ideas? When he says unifying progressives, don't you unify through a process, a primary where you throw out ideas, you throw out who's the best candidate on the campaign trail in terms of policy, debating, matching up against Trump. and then you unify to take on Trump. I don't agree with Bernie that it's somehow, putting democracy on a pedestal by canceling democracy, i.e. having no primary. And right now we have candidates, Marianne Williamson, RFK Jr. He's not my cup of tea. I would vote for Marianne over RFK Jr., but I am more in the Cornel West camp. However, this just isn't democratic, and this mentality is not democratic. And I think Bernie is naive in thinking that the best chance to beat Trump is a clearly not in his prime president who his own campaign wants to limit the amount he goes out in campaigns. 60 to 70% of those polled say his physical and mental state is a concern, and an overwhelming amount disapprove of his performance on the economy. How is this the best chance to protect democracy over a fascist candidate? That's just not democratic and not emblematic of the Bernie that I covered for many years. Let's continue as Bernie answers on the age question surrounding Joe Biden.
One way that you make it clear that age isn't a factor with you is you're pretty energetic. We see you travel the country. You show up you do interviews. It is clearly an issue for many voters when it comes to President Biden. He's a year younger than you. You have advice to him on how he should assuage those concerns in the public about his age?
Look, when people look at a candidate, whether it's Joe Biden or Trump or Bernie Sanders, anybody else, they have to evaluate a whole lot of factors. I met with the president, 5 or 6 weeks ago. We had a great discussion. He seemed fine to me. But I think at the end of the day, what we have got to ask ourselves is, what do people stand for? Do you believe the women have a right to control their own bodies? Well, the president has been strong on that. Do you think that climate change is real? Or do you agree with the Republicans that it's a non-issue? Do you think we should raise the minimum wage? Do you think we should reform and take on the pharmaceutical industry? So age is an issue, Chuck, but there are a lot of broader issues than just that.
This one is baffling. Taking out abortion, which is a layup. Yes, Biden is pro-choice. We don't have the luxury of choosing between the lesser of two evils on the climate inferno. Of course, Trump and Republicans would be worse on climate, but less worse still means the end of the planet. Biden may believe in climate change, but he has shown he is willing to pour more gasoline on the fire he ran on ending drilling on public lands. He's doubled it compared to Trump. He has allowed fossil fuel companies to profit at record rates. He has approved things like the Willow Project in Alaska. Yes, if you look at that specifically, the Alaskan people wanted it, but it still is a fossil fuel project. He ran through the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which we have covered on the ground in Virginia, a very, very dangerous natural gas pipeline that, when it explodes, has a blast radius of 2.5 miles and could kill Virginians and West Virginians. The list goes on. He has refused to declare a climate emergency amidst record heat waves, 4 days in a row this summer of the hottest temperature on record since record keeping began. You see what's going on in Maui. California just had a storm that's once in a century and an earthquake. This is not the president who is going to take aggressive, life-saving action. And Bernie knows that. And if he doesn't know that, he's not paying attention. When he says believes in having a higher minimum wage, well, he ran on it, and then he unilaterally surrendered right out of the gate. He said the parliamentarian won't let us put a $15 minimum wage in the COVID Reconciliation Act. At this point, forget it. $15 minimum wage is the conservative position. You need at least a $25 minimum wage with inflation, cost of living, gentrification. And let's remember, even if they got it into law today, that doesn't go into effect right away. It's staggered, going up about $1 each year. Biden might believe in these things. He has shown he's not willing to fight for these things. So to me, age is an issue. When Bernie says, "Oh, he looked fine to me," well, is the measurement he didn't keel over? But forget the age. I don't care if he's 30. He has shown he's not going to fight for the badly needed things that we need to have a healthy planet and a healthy population and proletariat. And finally, Bernie was asked about his speech on Saturday in New Hampshire. He gave an economics speech at a university there, which got a lot of buzz. So he was asked, well, why the need to do that?
So the fact that you felt the need to do this, should we read into the fact that you don't believe there's a second-term agenda yet that Americans can wrap their head around for what a second Biden term would look like?
No. I think what you can read into that is that Biden has every right to be proud of a long series of accomplishments. You know, 2.5, 3 years ago, this country was in the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression because of COVID. Today, unemployment is all of 3%. We're gaining new jobs, rebuilding manufacturing. We've invested in the infrastructure. We're making progress, and Biden has a right to be proud of that. The point of my remarks is that you cannot simply, as President of the United States, rest on your laurels. What you have got to understand is that today, for structural reasons that have gone on for decades, tens and tens of millions of people are struggling to put food on the table.
Oh, Bernie, you're breaking my heart. Breaking my heart with these Democratic Party talking points. First of all, 2.5 years ago, really? Yeah, Biden did the bare minimum during a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Should have done more. Unemployment, a $1,400 check. You know, expanded health care, which the Democratic Party wanted to push. Expanded COBRA, which is a big pharma scheme that is obscenely expensive if you're out of work. You know, he talks about that Biden, you know, improved manufacturing. Yeah, there's been some improved manufacturing, but I mean, compared to the decimation of the industrial Midwest and other parts of the country, we're still offshoring more jobs than we're bringing in manufacturing. And Biden, other than some virtue signaling, has not been a strong advocate for labor. In fact, he shut down a railroad strike right before the midterm elections, which Bernie knows. But he's pushing out these talking points, low unemployment, which he knows is not the true test and strength of an economy. You know, it's tough. It really is tough. You know, I try to be nuanced. I'm not going to be like others and declare him a sellout and a fraud. I think that's too simplistic. You can't just throw out everything this man has done for the progressive movement, the fight he has waged for years for working people. But you cannot just blindly defend him either. And you have to call him out when he's wrong, naive, or worse. And in this case, he is either dodging or providing undemocratic answers. Shame on Bernie.